evening and welcome to another one of our Honors College Symposium series. Tonight, we will be discussing the OSU SGA, the Student Government Association. And tonight joining us, we have Anne-Marie Griffith. She is the current Chief of Staff for OSU's SGA. And later on, Jaden Kasitz and Luke Muller will be joining us to talk a little bit more about what SGA is, how students can get involved, what SGA does for our students, and how to vote in the upcoming elections, which are actually going to be next week, March 9th and 10th. So with that, I will hand it over to Anne-Marie. Take it away.
Yes, thank you. I am going to share my screen. Can you all view that? Awesome. So thank you all so much for having me today. I am super excited to be with you. Again, my name is Anne-Marie Griffith, and I serve as the Executive Chief of Staff to our SGA President and Vice President. So today we're going to talk a little bit about what is SGA. So what does SGA stand for? Well, it's the Student Government Association. Now, I bring this up because it's actually not commonly known across campus what SGA stands for. 800 students were surveyed in 2019, and only 49.6 actually knew what SGA stood for. And that's a problem, right? Because as a group that represents students need to know what SGA means and what they do and what they stand for. So that's kind of what we're going to explain today. So it is our goal to make your voice heard on campus. That is the SGA motto. That is what we strive to carry out. So the SGA is actually designed like our federal government, with an executive, a legislative, and judicial branch. This is how the structure is organized. So as you can see with our legislative branch, we have a Senate chair, a vice chair, and then we have Senate committee chairs. So for example, if you were to look to get a student organization on campus to be recognized, you would go through the Committee on Student Organizations, or CSO, which is a Senate committee chair. Then we have the executive branch with our president, our vice president, and our chief of staff. And then we have a cabinet, which is organized by basic needs and programming events. So for example, with basic needs, we have a mental health director, which falls under the basic needs realm of the cabinet. On the other hand, we have SGA programming events, which would be something that you see like Cowboython. Then on the other hand, we have our judicial branch, and there we have a chief justice and then justices. Kind of crazy. Some students don't know that we actually do have a court system, but we do, so that's really neat. So let's talk in depth about the executive branch. So our executive branch is led by Student Body President Jaden Kasitz and Vice President Luke Muller, and it supports students through programming events. So cabinet members are housed in the SGA office, which is Student Union 211. They do have office hours, they interact with students there, and they're always there to hear student concerns and ideas to bring programming events to life. This does include the SGA Basic Needs Committee. This is new under Jaden and Luke's administration, and it is one way the SGA seeks to serve students in meeting their basic needs. So for example, it is comprised of our Multicultural Affairs Committee Director, our Director of Food Insecurity, our Mental Health Director, just to name a few, but there are several more on that committee. So here is the cabinet in its entirety. As you can see, there are many different moving pieces and parts. For example, we have the activity fee allocation process, which we'll get into a little bit later. And we have an attorney general as modeled in our federal government. We also have things like our It's On Us director, which works with One Is Too Many for sexual assault awareness and prevention, and Into the Streets, which is something students commonly volunteer with. So as you can see here, there are many things housed in the executive cabinet that you may see on campus, but you didn't realize were a part of SGA. Then we have our legislative branch led by Senate Chair Ashley Schultz and Vice Chair Craig Anderson. Senators to do office hours in Student Union 211 where they hear student concerns. So the legislative branch supports students through legislative efforts. So for example, if you're familiar with the renaming of the former Murray Hall that is now the Social Sciences and Humanities building, SGA passed the legislation to begin that renaming process. So those are some ways that they can hear student concerns to make really positive impacts on campus. Now, the legislative branch is actually one of my favorite things to explain, simply for the fact that this is where we really connect with students. So our legislative branch, again, is truly set up like our federal government. And so the seats are organized based upon constituencies. Hello, Jaden. And so, for example, if you live on campus in a residence hall, then you have seats based on how many residential students are on campus in Senate, so you have representation there. We also have college student councils. They also have so many seats based on their student population. So essentially, every student should have 2 sets of representatives in our legislative branch. It will be your living group representative and then your college representative. So that is very cool. As you can see here, we also have several committees that handle different things within Senate, as I previously mentioned, like our budget committee, the Committee on Student Organizations, which is what I previously described, Internal Affairs, Public Affairs Committee, and the University Committee. Now let's talk the judicial branch. So that is led by Chief Justice Peyton Doherty, and justices sit on the Student Conduct Board, which is a really neat privilege that they have. So justices in the judicial branch have jurisdiction over election matters, judicial review over governing documents. So we have 7 justices in total, 1 Chief Justice, and then 6 justices. So that is a really neat way to get involved as well. Now, I've kind of hinted at some places that we would love to have you, but let's talk specifically about how you as a student can get involved. So you can join an SGA program or committee. So examples of that are like Cowboy Cousins, which is a partnership between national students and international students to go to events and get to build relationships and create lasting memories. You could become a part of Cowboy-thon or Into the Streets. And most of these SGA applications, I will actually correct myself, all of these SGA applications are under Campus Link, the Forms tab. You can also apply to be a representative, so you can run for ascendancy on Campus Link. I will stress that we do have seats open in our off-campus representation. So if you are living off campus and you would like to be a senator, we have seats open and we would love to have you. First-year students can apply to be a part of the first-year representative council, and then academic colleges also have representatives. So those are elected in the fall. So when the fall rolls around, if you would like to be a part of your respective colleges representation as a senator, then we would love to have you there too. Whatever fits your schedule is, I guess, the best way to look at all of that. So we would also like to get to know how we can benefit you. So you are welcome to scan this QR code and fill that out if you would like. I'll leave that there for just a minute in case anyone wants to grab that. And then let's talk now, how can SGA help your student organization? So there's funding for your student organizations, which is a really neat opportunity. So we have the activity fee allocation process, which is a process on Campus Link, and you have to be a recognized organization, but then from there, you just apply and you will have a hearing where funds from SGA can be allocated to your student organization. We also have the Multicultural Affairs Committee, which allocates to student organizations who promote diversity within the OSU community, and then applications for that are live year-round on Campus Link as well. So those are two really great funding sources for your student organization if you would like to connect with SGA in that way. You can also receive funding from the Senate Budget Committee through a co-sponsorship. So if you're a registered student organization, you can receive up to $500. And if you're a recognized student organization, you can receive up to $1,000. And then we also have Speakers Board. And if you would like to really look at funding opportunities, you can always reach out to sga.okstate.edu and review. I believe that dot is actually supposed to be an at. So I'm going to repeat that, sga@okstate.edu, and you can review the funding opportunities tab. And then we would love for you to engage with us on social media. So as more opportunities arise, we have a really great communications chair that works to continue to update students on things that are going on there. So you are welcome to interact with us there. And I believe that is all that I have. And I am going to pass it over to Jaden and Luke.
Yeah, awesome. Well, thank you so much, Anne-Marie, for giving that presentation for us. Luke and I are apologetic for our tardiness tonight. We had another commitment that we had to go to for the first couple minutes of this, but I'm so glad we got to be here. Thank you all for having us. And that hopefully that presentation provided a little more insight into SGA and what we do. But obviously, we also wanted to talk a little bit about elections. Elections are happening right now, and the voting takes place March 9th and March 10th, and you can do that on Campus Link. So that's one way to do it. We'll have polling pop-up stations around campus as well. And we really would like you to come to our candidate forum/debate tomorrow evening at 8 p.m. And we can send you guys the Zoom link for that if you'd like as well. But really we also would like to make this a sort of collaborative space. So if you guys want to discuss anything that was in the presentation or otherwise, or we can point out some things to talk about as well. But thank you so much for having us.
Yeah, I'll just jump in there. Hello, everyone. Again, sorry that we were a little bit tardy, wrapped up that other meeting, but my name is Luke Muller. I serve as the Student Body Vice President, and glad Emery got to fill you in on some of the structure of SGA, but kind of like Jaden said, if you have any questions or thoughts or concerns about the university, I think we would be remiss in not doing our job if we didn't come to talk to students and didn't ask about something we can do better, the university can do better as a whole. That is our primary job, is to represent students in a variety of capacities. So it can be, there's a lot of great things going on this campus, but we can always improve it for the betterment of our faculty, staff, and students. So.
So now for our honor student present. Now is a good time to ask your questions if you got them. And there's a lot of info about positions and stuff like that that you can run for that. Remember, it all will be on the honors website at a future date if you want to look at it. So you also have reminders about when you could run yourself if you want to be a senator or hold another position in our Student Government Association. You can also private message Amanda or myself with these questions as well. But you mentioned that for elections, the academic ones open in fall. I hope I wrote that down right. And the living ones in the spring. For someone who is really looking at doing that, what time frame would they really want to know if they're going to want to have everything done in time and then have time themselves to campaign if they're going to be doing that? So when should a student know, yes, I want to do this, and be able to start preparing with adequate time?
Yeah, absolutely. So very similarly to the federal government, we do appointments whenever there are open seats, which that opportunity pops up around every semester. There's always open seats that we have to fill for a variety of different reasons, scheduling conflicts and things like that. So if you're ever interested, this is all of the time frame. You can always get in contact with an SGA representative and they can direct you to the appropriate authorities. The colleges typically use the college president, as a way to pick Senate seats during the term. Sometimes they do applications, sometimes they're appointed. It's kind of dependent college to college, and then also living group to living group. But the time frame for running for a Senate seat, so for the fall, the intent to run form is usually up around like October, second week of October 15th-ish, and then the elections happen later on. Same thing in the spring. Typically our intent to run goes up around February-ish, and then the March elections roll around that way. And those times don't really change. We try to post the intent to run form at the same time every semester. So that's how you would do that. And then as far as like preparing yourself to campaign for Senate seats, typically we have people who really campaign for Senate seats. That's kind of rare, but we would definitely like to see more of that. There are people who have had like Instagram pages or tried to do it that way. But as far as like getting all of your ducks in a row and campaigning and preparing, the intent to run form serves as kind of a guide in that way. So for senators and for president, vice president election, the intent to run form will tell you kind of all of the things that you need. There are a few requirements outside of just running for a seat. So for example, to hold any officer position within SGA, you have to have completed at least one semester. So there's like an hours requirement as far as how many hours you've taken at OSU. And there's also the age requirement, so to speak, as well. And there's a GPA requirement too. We don't advertise that as much, but there is a list of requirements you have to be able to be an officer technically. But that's kind of the time frame, and the exact date changes, but that's the time frame for that kind of. That's a great question though.
I can't hear Cindy.
So sorry. I had something.
Okay. It said you were
so good about it. I have a mic that mutes itself, so I do it just in case. But question. Debate forum tomorrow for the upcoming election next week, so students can be a more informed party as they go to vote. But for students that aren't able to do that and aren't able to go to that, where can students generally go to find out who is running and to find out more about them so that they know who's on the ballot before they go to fill that out?
Yeah, that's a great question. That's a fantastic question. So we record the debate every year. We started that a few years ago. And so we absolutely will be doing that. Even though it's a virtual format, we'll still record it and post it. And it'll be available on the SGA Instagram account and the SGA Facebook account as well. But how to find out candidate pairs, that information is usually available on our website. I'm not sure if it's up to date this semester. As you know, this is just a crazy year. But you can always go try to find that information on Instagram. It's hard to find it through the SGA channels because obviously we don't endorse candidate pairs as SGA, but we do make that information readily available. So the candidate forum is a great place to find more information. In usual years, we'll do it a full week or two before the election, but it just so happens that it's going to be tomorrow. So it's a little bit less than a week. But yeah, I would say the candidates are usually available on Campus Link the day of. You always have the Campus Link day of so that you can vote, but they'll be available on the SGA website in advance as well.
And I see Madison's question in the chat. That's a very interesting, always ongoing dilemma. So as you can imagine, things can get very, very, very busy. But it's prioritizing what is important to us. So Jaden, Anne-Marie, and I have these conversations constantly of what initiatives we want to do. First and foremost, we're students, right? Get that student work done. There have been people in the past, honestly, that have been in these positions that have kind of let their schoolwork go and focus so much on student government that their GPA has suffered, which I would definitely not recommend. But it's especially in the virtual world that we kind of come accustomed to in this last year, a lot more scheduling and using each other's calendars on Outlook has been super, super helpful. It's been very interesting to see. Jaden and I are also involved in other things and work and such. So we are on Zoom calls, it seems like 10 hours a day sometimes. It's just insane the amount of meetings and things that we take. But at the end of the day, we both knew coming into senior year with this position specifically that the workload would be immense. So we kind of tried to limit our other initiatives. And I think a lot of people are kind of scared for that. They have a lot of things that they're engaged in that they don't want to give up. But I will say, being in student and government, you have your hands in a lot of pots. You have like our executive branch that our cabinet has over 25 members in it. So on a daily basis, I'm talking about mental health, food insecurity, cowboy-thon, into the streets, and a variety of different things that reach literally every corner of this campus. So it's not like you're just limited to student government, right? You're talking to students in programs that are a variety of different platforms that reach students and better the student body.
Yeah, and I'll kind of echo that. And as well, I think we always try to tell everyone, like we preach this idea of SGA is what you put into it. And so we have people who, put in the very, very bare minimum requirements, and there's nothing wrong with that. I mean, they still are successful. They still can do their job well. But we also found that, I mean, at least for me, my personal experience, SGA just became kind of a vortex of my time because I was so passionate about it. And that casually over the course of several years lent itself to me putting more time into SGA and kind of figuring out what it was that I was passionate about. And that's just kind of good advice for college in general, I think, is we have this kind of funnel of you want to try a lot of things your freshman year, and then you slowly realize what you're more passionate about. And something that seems obvious that we don't talk about a lot of the time is that if you're not passionate about something, it's okay to step back. And obviously you want to fulfill your commitments and you want to be a person of your word, but at the same time, it's okay to recognize that something isn't important to you so that you can put your eggs into the appropriate basket, so to speak. But yeah, Luke's absolutely right. I mean, it does take a lot of time and energy for us, but that's also specific to our positions, I think. And so really, like I said, it's what you get out, it's what you put into it, what you get out of it. But we also are willing to work with people. The strict time schedule requirements that we have, a lot of times in the past, we'll have people who will be excused and have excused absences for a variety of reasons. And we always prioritize being a student first. That's definitely something that's high on our priority list as we are the student government. So that's kind of what I would say about that. That's a great question. I absolutely think it's possible to participate in SGA with an 18-hour course load. I've been in 17 hours, I think, since my freshman year. So I've always, not that, and obviously, there's a variety in time requirements for different classes and all of that kind of thing, but it's definitely manageable. And I can just speak to my personal story. I'm a double major in mechanical engineering and math, and it's been hard, but I definitely am able to make it work. And I've never let my grades suffer as a result. And the great thing about SGA is you have friends who you can delegate tasks to and who can help you out. So whenever Luke or I, whenever we have a very overwhelming week, we can step in for each other and help each other out. And the more you communicate about your workload, the better you'll succeed. But no, it's absolutely possible.
Just watching to
guys
see
have
if any
any
more
other
questions
questions?
pop up.
No, I'm like trying to see if we got anything else. But one thing I want to mention in terms of, balancing everything is that one thing to remember as an honors student is that as honors advisors, we're always helping you blend in your honors work. How can we be getting things? And I want to make sure that you guys do remember, we always have experiential learning in honors. So we're going to do a little honors plug for a second while we let other questions come in. And that's remembering that with experiential learning, but you guys do a lot of different things that are beneficial to you. As Jaden mentioned, things that you're passionate about. Get involved in these areas. So remember, you can earn honors credit for being a leader in an official OSU student organization, council, or club, as long as they're okay with it. So if you do SGA and you are involved in that as an officer somewhere, you can be earning honors credit at the same time. So food for thought there. You can earn honors at the same time. It's not the reason you're doing it, but it's a nice benefit of doing it as well.
Something to bring up too with that is that we actually are working to implement this in future semesters. So we'll be long gone by this point, but leadership in campus life is actually working really hard to make like a Canvas module and a leadership certificate. And so they're not exactly what all that's going to encompass yet. It could be we have an SGA graduation cord, but they're talking about providing actual certifications, because we graduate and we're like, oh, I was a student leader, right? But what exactly does that qualify you to be able to do? What skills does that develop? And so we actually are working to make that a little bit more incentivized, I guess, so to speak, which is really, really exciting, because to be a certified student leader is kind of an interesting perspective. And so the way we're going to certify is through a variety of things. There will be different training modules that you can do. We have, QPR mental health training, LGBTQ safe zone training, all of these trainings available that will be more readily available to student leaders in the future.
I would also mention, going off what you said of getting credit as an honor student, is I think sometimes we think to be a leader, you have to have a name, there has to be a title associated with it. And obviously there's titles in student government, but kind of like what Jaden was mentioning earlier, is it's truly what you get out of it. And we as student government have an influence not only on this campus, but also on the state and federal level. So we just got done lobbying with our federal delegation this last week, Big 12 on the Hill. Normally we'd fly to Washington, D.C. and had congressmen ask us to help write legislation for the future of college students when it comes to affordability. I know another thing we're about to work on is legislation to forward on to the state legislative body and governor, talking about sales tax on menstrual hygiene products. So there's a lot of leadership initiatives that, like Jaden said, it's what you put into it. And so it's not just another leadership role to put on your resume and to like kind of balance things out. It's truly you taking initiative or a problem that you see, whether that be on a local, state, or national level, and you can enact change, and you have this avenue to make your voice be heard. And I think like that's what the Honors College wants, right? Is for you to take initiative as a leader, to show that you're not just taking part in these roles just to have them, but to actually affect change on things around you.
Right. And Luke makes a great point of a lot of our roles, so to speak, they require a certain amount of commitment, and that can be kind of scary. But typically the story is people who get involved with SGA because they think like, man, this is going to look great on my resume, which obviously there's no problem with trying to boost your resume. It's definitely something that we all should be doing. But usually people in that kind of a mindset, they don't enjoy it as much as people who get involved because they say, I see this problem and I want to solve it this way. And that is when we see really big success of people who they can't imagine anything else that they would dedicate their time to. And I don't know if Emery talks about this, but I think when we talk about, especially the legislative branch, a lot of times we don't really have a conception of what that looks like and what that means. And some of the most exciting bills that SGA have passed, or Luke and I have seen passed during our time or before, and things that SGA has the power to do. For example, one of them is the No Tobacco on Campus initiative. That was actually pioneered by SGA at OSU. And there were a few other schools who did it early on, but that was something that was by students for students. And not a lot of schools had that same track with that. Also, the renaming of Murray Hall was a direct result of SGA. It was an initiative that went on for 15 plus years, but that's something. The Pete's Pantry on campus, which I'm sure Anne-Marie talked about and can talk about more, that was also something that came about through SGA. And so even wellness days this semester, that was something that came out of our organization. So it's really exciting that we're able to find people's passions and plug them in with that and be able to make change as a result. I think that's the most impactful part for me, is actually watching that change take place.
And I think Luke was right. That is what we want you guys to do as honor students, and just as students in general. For me, I want you to find your fit on campus. For some students, that's going to be in their residence halls. For some students, that's going to be in student government. It might be in their Greek house. Somewhere on campus, there's somewhere that you can be getting plugged in and really be finding what you're passionate about, where you are going to see that return that's going to be greater than somewhere they're just like, it looks good. Same thing with honors. Yes, honors can look good on a resume, but what did you put into it and get out of it at the end of the day? And that's the concept with your experiential learning. So don't be an officer just to be an officer and get your credit. Do it because it's something that you truly want to do. And with SGA, you're really going to be able to impact a lot of change. And maybe it's not change that you're going to see when you're at OSU, but maybe it's going to be like the renaming of the building so that it happens decade, 15 years after the fact, that future students are going to see at a later date. Does anyone else have any other questions? It looks like I got another one in the chat. But as a freshman, how do you suggest that I prepare myself now for wanting to be involved in student government at some point?
Yeah, well, Luke, you go ahead. You take this one.
Well, I would say you don't have to prepare yourself. I maybe we sold it too hard that you have to do certain steps before you can be involved. That's absolutely not true. I know there are plenty of committees within the executive branch that you can be a part of, like today, and apply for. There, like Anne-Marie, she's the director of food insecurity. You can join her team. There's the multicultural affairs committee. You can join their team. There's a lot of committees there. And then, like we also mentioned, there's senator seats open. So I don't know exactly which two constituencies you fall into, but you have a living group in your college, like she mentioned. So you can get involved tomorrow. So like I said, I think sometimes as student government, we haven't done the best job of making it accessible, and it's kind of intimidating to a certain fact. And people like, there has to be a certain, either maybe I have to be a poli-sci major, or I have to have like these certain credentials or know Robert's Rules of Order before that's definitely not the case at all. Student government is made for students to enact change on every level around them. And so you don't have to prepare yourself in any way at all, Madison. You are fully qualified as being an individual that is an enrolled student at Oklahoma State to be a part of student government in whatever area of passion you see fit.
And I will note, as you're getting involved, if you are eventually ever looking at being a senator, remember that when we're talking about your academic college, we're not talking about honors. We are talking about your home college where your major is housed. So I cannot do anything for you as an honors advisor, so check in with your major advisor and people in that college if you are interested. But yeah, it's basically a concept we've been seeing a lot lately. We talked about this even a couple weeks ago in regards to research, when they asked, how do you get involved in research? Ask a professor. All you got to do is email them. Say, hey, I'm interested. So if you're interested in SGA, think about where. What areas are you passionate about? Is it going to be with multicultural affairs? Is it going to be with the food insecurity? And thinking about what is it? And then we will have a link on our website to the SGA website. And I can put it in the chat here in a second. And so you can go there. And also Luke just put in an email address that you can use to contact him at, that then you can utilize these places and just get in contact with somebody and they can help point you in the right direction, or maybe they're the person that you need to talk to then get involved even tomorrow if you want to, or at least start the workings of that so you can find that out, whether it's on committees or anything like that. So any last questions or thoughts from you guys that are here from SGA?
Yeah, I would just say thank you so much for having us. Luke can definitely attest to the fact that when I received the email from you guys, the smile did not leave my face all day. I've been so excited about this. And so thank you so much for being open and willing to have us come and talk. It's honestly, and I say this, and I don't say this lightly, SGA seriously has been influential in my life. It's really changed my life. And I think it could be that for a lot of honor students, because a lot of time we see that honor students are the ones who are most motivated to make the change happen. So I would definitely encourage anyone and everyone, you know, you guys that are on this call and all of your friends as well, to get involved with SGA, because I think it could do for you what it did for me, and it could do a lot for the campus as well. So thank you all again.
So I think that's all that we have for right now. So I do want to thank Emery for giving the presentation, and for Jaden and Luke for popping in to answer questions and chit chat with all of you guys about what SGA is on campus and how you can get involved, but also just how it can be impactful in your own lives and impactful on campus. So do remember that if you do have questions, you can reach out to them. If you forget their contact info or where to find it all, you can always reach out to myself or to Amanda or whoever your honors advisor is, and we will be sure to get you in contact with them, or make sure you have the links Do remember the forum is going to be tomorrow night. If you are interested, we can make sure, again, contact us or Luke or Jaden, and they can get you the information for that Zoom call for the debate and forum tomorrow night. But do remember, if you do want to vote in the upcoming elections, those are going to be next week, March 9th and 10th. So that's going to be Tuesday and Wednesday that you can be voting for those that are running for the positions for this year. So thank you all for coming again. Thank you guys for presenting and giving up some of your evenings. And this will be posted online for you guys to reference at a later date if you want to pick up those links or look at that presentation again later on. So thanks, guys.
Yeah, thank you. Have a good night, everybody.